us off of mute. Okay, we did it. Well, hey, here we are again. We got a new engineer in the background. She was kind of bopping to the music. Sharon was noticing it too at the same
And
time.
I
We're
was
so
bopping too.
glad.
That's why I noticed.
Hey, welcome to Taking the Journey Together. Welcome to Taking the Journey Together. So, Sharon, who are you and who are we outside of what I said?
Well, I am Zara,
Okay, okay.
and you are,
I'm R. Yes, I'm R.
and and we are taking the journey together, and we want to welcome you on this journey with us.
Exactly, exactly. Hey, on taking this journey with us, can you go through the process of, in the meantime, where I'm telling everybody to share with your
Share and
friends,
share alike.
share with your enemies, share with your mom and dad, share with, friends across in Russia, Egypt, Africa, and everything. You go, just share. Yeah, share, like, and follow. We
and
want you to, please.
and share with those people you would like to be in a relationship with and take the journey with. Because we are going to relate.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what our mother, father, sister, brother, or anybody else says, even Jesus, we are going to
Oh,
relate. And at taking the journey together,
mm-hmm.
we recognize that, but we want to help people to understand and learn how to relate in a balanced way.
Balanced
And
way.
the balanced way means that you start off with a friendship
Mm-hmm.
and you build that friendship and you get
Okay.
closer and closer. And the more you build on that relationship, that friendship,
Mm-hmm.
you become closer and you take it to the next level and you end up marrying, cohabiting, or being in a long term committed relationship with your
Your
friend
friend.
and your
Yes.
lover.
Wow, get two
To
mints in one. That's a
I,
commercial.
I
These
think you
young
just
folks don't
dated
remember that.
yourself.
You're just kidding me. So you get both at the same
Yes.
time. Yes. Very important to know that. It can happen.
And it
It
should
can happen
happen.
and it should happen. Okay.
Yes.
What is before we talk about a topic, I want you to pull out a button. Is there a button around here?
There's
Oh,
a
how come I don't
button
have a button on
because
it?
your button is over there and I couldn't
Oh,
reach it.
oh, okay, my button. So let's put it up
Yes.
there. Why don't you tell us a
Okay,
little bit
I'm
more
gonna
about
take
the
it
button?
off so you can. Or can you
Okay.
see it good enough on the?
Yes.
Okay, hot buttons,
Hot buttons.
and the hot buttons are only $5 each,
Mm-hmm.
and they go to support ATR.
They do.
Yes, they
When we get
do.
them.
Yes.
When we get them.
So it's like give back. Well, not give back, but what is it? Reciprocation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they are helping us out by
Oh, there's my
allowing us a
button.
platform. Yeah, that's
There it
and
is.
by allowing us a platform, and we are helping them out by helping them to
There's
get
that hot
funding.
button.
And
There it
so,
is.
because nothing is free in life, and so this is one of our ways of
If
giving
you
back.
wear that, I guarantee you it will stick out and someone's going to stop and say, hey, why you think you hot?
Yeah.
So, hey, why don't you let everybody know, what does hot actually mean? Those who watch our show and been with us for a little while, we don't want you to tell anybody, but those who haven't, Sharon, tell us, what does hot actually mean?
Hot means honest, open, and transparent. Those are the things that you should be in your relationship starting from the
Hmm.
foundation of friendship.
Exactly. Hot, hot. In fact, were told by your daughter when we went to DC that you two ought to start a seminar, a class,
Or
teaching specific,
yeah.
or what's she say again?
Well, she wanted us to start a show.
Oh, a
Yeah,
podcast
she wanted us to start
specifically on the hot
hot.
principle. So we're going to sometime this fall
Start.
actually start a broadcast or a podcast
Yeah.
and open up a class specifically to do with it. We'll do it hybrid, whether it's live streaming or we'll get someplace like a church or community center or a hotel, and we'll actually talk about that principle of hot,
Mm-hmm.
open, honest, open, and transparent, more in detail, because there's
Yeah.
a lot more in detail you can
Yes.
learn from it. And it'll be like a whole retreat.
Different aspects of it.
Exactly. It'll be
Yes.
like a whole retreat. Once you leave from there, you will be hot with yourself, hot with your couple, and if you're in that relationship, or
Yes.
if you want a relationship, you'll be a hot person for somebody in a
Exactly.
relationship. Yeah.
And you'll be able to, as you're going through the building of the friendship stage,
Hmm.
help them to get more hot because you're
Yes.
being hot.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, what are we going to talk about today? Since we started with the hot button, what are we talking? What is our show talk? Oh, I put it on already, didn't I? Oh no, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
Okay, put it down here.
But
There
what
it
we're
is.
talking about, and this just popped into my head,
Mm-hmm.
we are talking about toxicity. And this is
Yes.
the part six of toxicity in the
Mm,
relationship. But what just popped into my head was the realization that through talking about this,
mm-hmm.
we have been able to recognize some of the situations in our relationship
Yes.
where there are still pockets of toxicity.
Bits and pieces
Yes,
of elements and moving parts still
right.
going on in the relationship.
but but it has made us so aware
Mm-hmm.
that we're physically actually working on those
Yes.
toxicity pieces so that we can eliminate those. So it's really good as you go through these
Mm-hmm.
different topics that we do to really be honest and open and transparent and see yourself in your relationship and see your relationship in its true form
Yes.
to help build and change and make it better and more exciting.
Well, one thing that we know about when we talked about toxicity before is that the root of toxicity, because we can talk about it all the time and bring it up all the time, but we may not know the root of toxicity. And without knowing the root of toxicity, you're going to always look at it as being a negative word, but never get to the root of it.
Mhm.
So when it comes to the root of toxicity, fundamentally, meaning overall, toxicity in a relationship is behaviors that result in the lack of empathy. Again, them
Yes.
are they are relationship behaviors that
Mhm.
result in the lack of empathy in a
Yes.
relationship. So if you're being toxic, at the bottom line, your behavior is a result of you having a lack of empathy in your
Mhm.
relationship.
Yes.
And what was the meanings of empathy itself, Sharon?
You mean the example?
Yeah, example.
Yes.
Well, no, not example. What would be a meaning of empathy? Some people don't know what empathy means.
Empathy is understanding and feeling what somebody else is going through.
Mm-hmm.
It is experiencing it with them and knowing what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing it, it's like experiencing it through their perspective, through their lens, through their
The
experiences.
ability to understand and share the feelings of another.
Yes.
And how about that one right there
Yes.
that really puts it on the head? You've said it many times before. I don't know why you're going
I
all
know.
around it. What the heck
Yeah,
is going on?
because
Blah, 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 blah. Come on. This is the one you
I
came up
know,
with.
and that's the one that I was getting ready to
Exactly.
share. Anyway, here
Mm-hmm.
we go. Empathy is like a pair of glasses
Yes.
that you put on to see the world through someone else's eyes.
Yeah. Say that again so we can sink it in.
Empathy
Mm-hmm.
is like a pair of glasses
Mm-hmm.
that you put on
Mm-hmm.
to see the world through someone else's
Put them
eyes.
on yours and then put it back
Yes.
on my. Put it on yours. Okay, you saw through it,
Oh, I
all the
see it.
elements in there, and put it back on. Oh, I can see. You think
I
I'm ugly? No, I'm just joking.
never that.
Well,
Mm-mm.
I think one of the key thing is that we're not talking about the old saying of rosy colored
Right.
glasses, which
Or
really means you are looking at
mhm.
things from your point of view.
Or literally
Mm-hmm.
sharing your glasses.
Mm-hmm.
No, that is I see you. I or as we used to say, I feel you. Yeah,
Exactly,
you know.
exactly. Walking in someone else's moccasins, as the Native
Mhm.
Americans say. Do you have the ability to do that? And that's what empathy is all about. So
Yes.
you are going out of your way to get to know what the other person feels in that
Mhm.
relationship. That's part of that
What they're
sharing.
experiencing inside.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
It's called, in this case, what is the love language?
Yes.
Do you know their love language?
Mhm.
Many of us don't even know our own love language, let alone we not even know the other person's love language. So this is important. Without knowing that other person's love language, or even your own love
Right.
language, you have a lot of toxic kind of way of
Mhm.
how you handle the relationship because you're not handling in an empathetic way.
Right.
You may want them to be empathetic with you, caring for you, seeing you're coming from a
Always.
point of view, but you're not necessarily
Right.
going out of your way. And in healthy relationships are always both ways. There's no such thing as perfect. We're both trying to balance our way of how we share
Mhm.
our love with one another at all times.
Yes.
And so empathy really helps that to actually happen. Right?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So we went through all
Mm-hmm.
of the different levels of toxicity and all the different and several different types. Of course, there are more than that, but these are the basic ones that hinder a relationship from thriving. And so we went through all of those.
What are some of the basic ways that a person can show toxicity in the relationship, whether the you're the one who's showing it,
Mm-hmm.
or someone else is actually showing it to
Yes.
you. Why don't you give us a couple of them so we can move on? Because this is the last time we're talking about
Right.
toxicity. I think we beat it, that dead horse of toxicity,
Yeah.
dead,
Time to
trying the
time to
best
make
to
it
bring it.
glue now.
Exactly. Now we're trying to bring to life
Back.
what we're trying to bring to life: empathy,
Yes.
care for one
Oh, you
another.
said bring
And from
to life.
yeah, well,
Okay.
bring to life empathy. We're
Yes.
not trying to kill the person.
No, no, no,
No,
no,
no, no, no,
no.
no, no. We're
That's
trying to
what's
bring to life that which is in them.
mm-hmm.
That thing that we call what did I call it with the kids when I was teaching with Mrs.
Dharma.
Dharma?
Yeah.
With that goodness, that belief system, humanity, and love that we have for one
Right.
another, that's in us too. At the same time, whether you believe it religiously or not, that's in
Mm-hmm.
you. That spirit that's in you. So we're trying to bring that out, and I keep on hitting this too. But anyway, you're trying to bring
Well, we
that
can
out and
fix
bring it
that.
back to life.
There we go.
So tell us some of those elements or some of those negative toxicity things that we talked
You
about before.
you are belittled
Mm-hmm.
um and um and shamed in things that you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um you live under a cloud of rage.
Mm-hmm. A lot
Um
of us do that too in our
mhm.
relationship. We're
Yeah.
living out a cloud of rage and anxiety.
Yes.
And some of us are living in the cloud of hate,
Uh-huh.
which is just a little bit for
Yeah.
rage, but it's there. It's there.
Right.
Constant kind of hate too.
Right,
But go
right.
ahead.
Um, you feel controlled or manipulated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the stronger ones. Um, yeah, that
Yeah.
that's
Not cool.
not at all.
No,
Not
not
at
at
all.
all. If some of you guys have your own stories out there when it comes to what kind of toxicity that you've been going through, I'll say the word again, where you're feeling that your mate is not being empathetic to you, not caring to you, not looking at things from your point of view, and don't understand your love language, and you've been trying to talk to them about your love language to them, hey, give us a call. Not a call. I forgot to call the show. Put something in text up there. We usually have people that show up once in a while and give us some comments. And no comment is too stupid. No comment is too smart. It's always best to give a comment that has to do with your own personal testimony. That's one
Absolutely.
thing for sure. I do know in a lot of our relationships, when it comes to the beginning of it, we will put on our best when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
the
Right.
courting period of time. We
Yes.
come with our own ambassador. It may not how we going to be after the next day we see them after get married, but we put on that good ambassador that
Yes.
does the best for them, who really wants to see things from their point of view. We might promise the moon and the stars and all that good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
just to connect with one another. Okay, the
Right.
ambassador.
Right.
And in doing that time, we're really doing a disservice because we're talking a lot of toxic stuff. I'll be honest with you. We
Yes.
don't know much about that person.
Yes.
Really, we don't have that kind of deep empathy for that person because you really don't know them. But you're putting on your best. Some people say your best foot forward, but most of the time it's just a mask that you're
Mm-hmm.
putting on.
Which is why you need to build a build
You,
wh-
mm,
why you need to build a friendship first,
yes.
because all of that will be um you'll find it to be not necessary
Mm-hmm.
as you build that trust, and friendship is about trust. So as you work on that friendship, those things that you want to have hidden become less important, because over the time of that friendship they're going to come off they're going to come out anyway,
Yes. Yes.
but they will
Push.
be accepted or not
You
in a
remember
different
those
way.
saying, "Push come to shove, you show exactly what you're made of."
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. We do that.
Yes.
It's really a shame.
And if it's thorns and brambles, it's still going to
Mm-hmm.
show.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Be careful. Sometimes the first time when you're in that relationship, what a person says, it may end up being who they really are too. At
Yes.
the same
Yes.
time.
But
Uh,
sometimes those thorns and brambles that a
mm-hmm.
person presents is
Mm-hmm.
because of
I've
the
heard.
toxicity that is coming
Mm-hmm.
from other places, like as you were saying, the hurt from you know uh, other stressors that they're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it may not be who they are, it just may
But
be.
at the beginning of that relationship, to put into practice, notice the word practice,
Yes.
which we're talking about next, are the solutions to not acting toxic, being, in this case, not being unethical.
Mm-hmm.
Have not unethical, which is no empathy. What's the word?
Unempathetic.
Empathetic, but in
Mm-hmm.
this case,
Or be apathetic.
apathetic. But in this case,
Yes.
practicing and being empathetic
Mm-hmm.
has everything to do with the fact that maybe what's going on, as we're going to be talking about more, that at the beginning of your relationship, if you have this kind of information, you're going to be quite conscious and sensitive that says, well, if this person is in turn acting that way, whether they're hurt or not, it wouldn't be wise for me to
Right.
continue on.
Right.
It wouldn't be
Right.
wise.
Especially if in this situation where they're dealing with rage
Mm-hmm.
that is un, uncontrolled.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm. Or manipulation. In this
Exactly.
particular case, where they
Yes.
came up in life that you really don't show yourself. You play
Mm-hmm.
yourself like cards, and you don't let people know too much about you, but you know a lot about them, so you can
Right.
take advantage of them. And
Right.
so they're more like opportunists in a relationship,
Exactly.
and they will
Exactly.
definitely shoot a lot of macho terror, toxicity at you through manipulation,
Mm-hmm.
because they're really not about trying to be empathetic to you.
Right.
They're really about trying to have you be empathetic
And get
to
what they
them.
want.
Exactly.
Yes. And
Exactly.
how they want it.
Exactly. So
Yes.
we're going to talk about some of the things that we can do to deal with toxicity, so we can either stop being toxic, or in our relationship we can bring that in, create it in. That's important,
Mm-hmm.
because not all of us are not in a relationship. Some of us are in a relationship, and we want to try to build our relationship. We want to expand our relationship. We want to modify our relationship. We want our relationship to be better. And thriving relationships and balanced relationship is all about trying to make your relationship better, because you know it can be better, and you know it's your right in your opportunity, and it is for you to have a better relationship. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what's the number one that we talked about?
Um, as far as things that are going to make it better,
Mm-hmm.
things that are going to help it. One of the first ones is to get out of the other person's head. Get
Yes.
out.
Yes.
Because the thing of it is, um it's tempting to dissect and analyze the behaviors of others,
Mm-hmm.
um especially someone who's hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily where you need to be. It's a waste of time, because for starters, how do you know what I'm feeling? How do I know what you're feeling?
You
I
might be
can
showing it.
I can huh
You might be showing it.
but but not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
You may be seeing the
Mm-hmm.
portrayal of what I may be, what you think I'm feeling,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't necessarily know that. Because when you're dealing with somebody's feelings, I could be angry, angry, angry,
Mm-hmm.
throwing things at you,
Mm-hmm.
but really you're the stand-in for the hurt, the disappointment, the grief, the whatever I'm going through
Mm-hmm.
at that moment, just because you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying, I know you hate me. And the real truth is, and if I say no, I don't, then
Mm-hmm.
yes you do. I know you do. No, you don't. I hate that person, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
that has hurt me that day,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not here.
But that is a mouthful you just said. Number one,
Yeah.
I don't know where you were going with that. To be honest with
Well,
you,
I was just trying.
but that is a seasonal thing that can
Exactly.
happen in the
Yes, it
relationship
definitely,
that we
definitely.
are trying to refer
Yeah.
to here. Is all about, if you are taking more of your time, which can happen
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to get in the other person's head, because you want to know the love language and they may
Right,
not know it.
right.
You want to show empathy to them and not be toxic. It could be a situation where when you do that, they might take it wrong. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Some people in that relationship may say, I don't want you to know those things that have to do with how I'm hurting.
That's
I
true.
not want you to know what my love language is. I don't even know what it is. Now, when that happens, no doubt about it, you are running and operating in a one-way relationship. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not balanced, no
No.
doubt about it. But that does happen. And during those times where you don't really have that right to enforce them to open up to you and let you know it's not good communication that way, and yada 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 is not balanced because of the fact that it is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
then during those times, them are the best times that you need to be about what? Being and doing the best from you.
Right.
What can I bring to the table? What
Yes.
is it lovely that I can bring to the table? Because you're right. On that side, that person may not feel comfortable. Dad could die. We talked about the seasons.
Right. Right.
Mom could have died. Kids could have happened. Job could have been lost.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking for some comfort. They may not be able to say it. They may not be able to speak as you're
Yeah.
talking about, but they're looking for some comfort from you. If you bring to that table and share at your table that table of uplift, support, positive affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things that come to the table, then that can help them out during that particular time,
Right.
because you're not about trying to get in their head just to get in their head.
Right.
You really are trying to get in their head because remember, we talked about
Yes.
toxicity is not having what?
Empathy.
So
Yes.
your whole motive is trying to
Right.
be empathetic to that particular
Exactly.
person anyway.
Right. So instead of saying, I know how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
you have to say, how do you feel?
Exactly.
Instead of saying, I know you're thinking this,
Mm-hmm.
say, are you thinking this, or what are you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
You have to ask questions, or you
Yeah,
have to guide the conversation in such a way that the other person feels empowered.
exactly. Or doesn't feel being taken for granted or being used in the matter of their emotions.
Right, right.
And therefore, because of going into what you said in the past, when I opened up before, it looked upon as being vulnerable and I was looked upon as being weak.
Yes,
And I don't let that happen again. When
exactly.
really what you're trying to do is I'm trying to show empathy to you. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
share that with you. Hopefully, in your relationship, if you both are working on this,
Mm-hmm.
okay, balanced relationship, thriving relationship is all about both of you working on this,
Right.
not a one-way show, then both are going to have that understanding. And when that other person doesn't have that understanding, is not feeling well, then they're going through a period in time. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just one of those times that we have cycles, just like the seasons, we go through a cycle from that end.
Yes. And so, just that's the time to be empathetic.
Mm.
That's the time to, when once you find out, you say, I've been there, so I can imagine how you feel.
I think about in our relationship where when I first was with you, the first couple of months, I remember doing a time of the year where you would go into a funk mode. I mean, you would many times stay smiley, smiley, laughy, laughy, especially when you're in Colorado, showing those teeth, and a pretty smile that you had and bright eyes. But I remember there were some times in our relationship where things were not going well during a certain period of time. You would go in this
Yes.
funk mode. I wouldn't really know what it was, and you would get quite toxic. Your
Mm-hmm.
toxicity wasn't so much the words you say, sometimes the tone, and we'll talk about later on
Mm-hmm.
in this when we're talking about your actions or lack of actions.
Yes. And it wasn't, I wasn't
Well,
mean, I wasn't belligerent.
no, you wasn't.
I
You wasn't.
was
But you
absent.
certainly were not being empathetic in that
Right.
situation. You were showing more that this was all about you needing empathy, and I didn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you kind of know where I'm going to.
Yes,
It
yes.
took about maybe a couple of years of talking to you,
It was a
calling
year.
you
Yeah.
on the phone,
Yeah.
and we finally figured
Yeah.
out
About
because you know that the way I am trying to be empathetic,
mm-hmm.
trying to show care, trying to find out about you because I feel you was a friend.
Yes.
I found out it was had to do with what?
My mother's death.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
mother's death.
I,
I'm carrying
I
it
there
with
were
you.
periods of time where there were important times. There was like um the anniversary of the day she passed away,
Mm-hmm.
the Mother's Day, her birthday,
Mm-hmm.
um, moving on towards Christmas, things of that sort that were important milestones that we shared. And when they would come up, I would, not knowing how to say, this is what I'm feeling, this because at some point a part of me looking around and seeing other people who have gone through the same thing
Hmm.
bounce back quicker, I'm like, this is something wrong with me. And so I what am I going to share? That something's wrong with me? I'm this, that, or the other. I didn't know how.
That was a that, and you're just also explaining clearly now, clearly because of hindsight being 2020
Yeah,
vision.
exactly.
It was one of those things that you really couldn't say.
Right.
You couldn't put into words. It was more of a
Mhm.
feeling.
Yeah.
And like I said, we'll talk about later out that sometimes feelings itself is a language. And the
Yes.
language during the
Yes.
time through your feeling was saying to me, I don't want to deal with you.
Yes.
I don't want to connect with you.
Leave
Ultimately,
me alone.
ultimately said, I don't really love you. I
Yeah.
don't even like
Yeah.
you.
And see,
And so, and I didn't even know that. I was like, what the hell?
that was your perception
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
my actions,
Mm-hmm.
which was never a thought that I had.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and I at that time, lack of energy towards you,
Mm-hmm.
because all my energy was trying to keep me from falling
Falling
apart.
apart.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't know how to say anything else.
What one thing for sure, that's an example of a season.
Mhm.
And that season was the season of us learning each other. They talk about, even though it's a second marriage, they talk about how 2, 3, or 4, 5, or 7 years the itches and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I basically look at that relationship or relationships, and when it's long term, you're committed, that you go through seasons, okay?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that was a season of grief that
Yes.
you were
Yes.
involved with and that you were part
Mhm.
of. It was really too bad it started at the beginning of the relationship because you brought it in from the other
Exactly.
relationship, and it made it very difficult for us, especially on
Mhm.
me, of course,
Because I
also
was
on you.
thinking that I was dealing with it,
Exactly.
and I really
But
wasn't.
you
It
did,
was
yeah.
I was just I was pushing it back and
Hmm.
ignoring it. But living alone, I could do that.
Yeah.
You know, um,
It
which
still wouldn't have been best. It
it
wouldn't have been really
wasn't.
fulfilling, but you could.
It
It'd been
wasn't the
easier because you did
best.
it with yourself.
Exactly. But I knew what I was dealing with, and I knew how to
Hmm.
just withdraw my energy,
Hmm.
and deal with it and then move past it. I didn't know how to deal with it without withdrawing my energy when I'm in a relationship.
I want to ask those who are watching right now if there's anyone else who has something familiar to this, where you were going through a season in life for yourself, and it was some struggle that you had going on, either with your mother and father dying or a child dying, something in the past that job
Change that you
change,
didn't want to
and
deal
and
with.
and in your relationship, you have a hard time saying anything to anyone about it. You have a hard time talking to anyone about it, and but it's just there. You might have grief from the standpoint of feeling that, as African Americans, we've been struggling hard, and we've been, hung, we've been beat, and all that kind of
Mhm.
struggle. And we might be carrying on in us sometimes that DNA anger and that DNA pain, or some
Yes.
people say that that wound healing, a wound hurt that comes along with it. That some people even believe that even men have not a wound healing,
Boom.
but have a
Yeah.
womb healing, but have
Mhm.
a PTS that comes through our
PTSD.
physical
Mhm.
body that came through
Yes.
our past too. But we carried in a relationship are not paying much attention to that all, and we can't put any words on it whatsoever.
Right.
I would say, even during that time with you and I as example, and I look back at it now, it is part of that learning period
Mhm.
that is in life of all things, but the
Yes.
learning period that we have to have when it comes to our relationships.
Mhm.
If your relationship is going to be a long-term relationship, like in the seasons
Yes.
or in life itself,
Mhm.
the seasons that Mother Earth or Gaia has, however you may want to
Right.
say that, then there's seasons that you go through.
Mhm.
This was a learning period for
Yeah.
you and I to learn each other and me to learn you.
Yeah. But and through that,
Hmm.
you were listening,
Yeah.
because as it started to reveal itself,
Hmm.
you and the fact that you were listening and the empathy that you had from that started helping me to come out of it.
Hmm.
When you had me eat my words, the same words that I was telling other people
Hmm.
when they were going through things, I would say, write it out,
Hmm.
put it onto the paper and deal with it then.
Hmm.
Just write it out. And so as it started coming out, and you realized one day when you asked me something about why I was like teary or something like that,
Hmm.
you basically sent me off to another room and said, write something about your mom and come back and read it to me. And that's when it started. And I got a book out of it. Want to read it?
Yeah, you did.
But
You did write a
I
book.
did. And what that one little piece ended up turning into
What's
several
it
different
called?
pieces. It's called
Pieces
Pieces
of
of
Mama.
Mama.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody wants to, before we leave, we're going to give you our. In fact, I'll do it right now. Come to think of it, since it's right here, I'll click on this. There's a email address, ttjt at takingthejourney.com, or takingthejourney-takingthejourney.com. Hey, you can always use that
Taking the
email
journey
address, or
dash.
go to our website, our
Yes.
Facebook site too, and
Yeah.
say, I would like to get that book. I
Yeah.
would say the first three that say they want to get that book, that she wrote, a very good book. It's also in a couple of places where people have mothers who have dementia, because her mom had dementia, I had dementia, and she really
No,
helped me
no,
through
your
that.
mother.
My mother had dementia.
You
Uh,
don't have it.
yeah, what?
You said I have
Oh, no, no,
dementia.
no. I mean, my mom had to mention you did. Then we would be glad to give those books away
Yes.
free to the first three that email us, and
Yeah.
you want that book. It's a very good, moving book about the life of her mom, and how those pieces in turn came into more of a realization when she
Hmm.
started to write about it and put it together in a book. I know you wrote more than one
Yes.
particular book too, but this one was very moving to
Yeah.
you. And I know it helped a lot of people who
Mm.
had to deal with
It
dementia,
has.
and we kind of let dementia being a taboo now, especially in the Black community. We
Yeah.
want to talk about it much, and
Hmm.
it's not going to get any much better, even though they're trying to work on it
Right.
from that end. But I
Right.
think it'd be a good book if you want to pick it up.
Yeah.
First three, we'll give it to you free. How's
Yeah.
that?
And it had a double meaning to it. The
Mm-hmm.
title, Pieces of Mama. Working jigsaw puzzles were something that was special to the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time I was growing up, we would spend time together talking, working jigsaw puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
And then, with dementia, it was it was a jigsaw puzzle that helped me realize that there was no turning back, that she couldn't do jigsaw puzzles anymore. And I realized that we were losing her one piece of the puzzle at a
At a
time
time.
that made her who she was.
Wow.
And so, but yeah, it was, and I can talk about it now, and I can
Mm-hmm.
talk about it now um with peace.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because your empathy said, go do what you do, go right.
Mm-hmm.
And that just opened it up.
And the special thing about when you try to apply empathy in the relationship instead of toxicity, you then will have the ability or the chance of the opening of knowing that person.
Yes,
Get to know them. May
exactly.
not happen exactly on target right now when you
Mhm.
want it,
Mhm.
but if you show that empathy in such a way that says, I care about you, in such a way of, what was it that had you get that hurt? What
Right.
was it that has you hurting? What you'll do is you'll find out, if you give them an opportunity, if they want to take that
Mhm.
opportunity, they have an ear to hear, then they will give back to you what that hurt was. And with that, you get to know that person more,
Right.
and get to connect with them more, and show
Mhm.
them that kind of love and care that you want to show to them as a friend and also a lover too, right?
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is wonderful.
Paint that picture of that kind of relationship you want. Paint that picture of the kind of relationship that you want. Sometimes you have to actually paint that picture
Yes.
of
It's
how
like
you want that relationship.
it's like having a vision board
Mm-hmm.
that you can make together. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of people have had vision boards before. Some people have them now,
Mm-hmm.
but this is a relationship vision board, but you can't do it by yourself.
Yes, yes. I know a lot of ladies that I've dated before. They have vision boards of cars, vision boards of trucks, vision boards of better kids. Sometimes they have vision boards of guys up on the vision board, but they're not necessarily having a vision board that has to do with how I want the relationship, how I need the
Yes.
relationship to roll. In fact, I never, when I've talked to someone who had vision boards, it's never talked about, I want to make sure he's my friend. They usually have pictures of him like a knight in white armor, prince or king,
Either
and all that stuff.
either
So they
that,
don't
or
even have to be a
or
friend at
he's a
all. Oh
bodybuilder,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
some ridiculous
Actor or sports.
non-reality
Exactly,
individual.
exactly, exactly.
For whatever reason, they don't want the the humble guy that is
is willing to put into your life, pour into your
Exactly.
life.
Exactly.
And us guys many times ain't as so pure as the driven snow, because my day it was a Jet magazine, the centerfold. And now today, of course, in a lot of
Now it's anywhere on
not
Facebook.
Facebook. I'm in love with the stripper. But
Okay.
anyway, so us guys ain't that much better when it comes to imagining a relationship. Every
Which
one
is
of those are toxic as can be, but I mean, you see it on, they're
yeah,
rolling on Atlanta Housewives and the
yeah.
rest of them. They're rolling it hard.
Which is
Toxic
which is
relationship.
why I say this is a vision board you
Uh-huh.
have to do
Yeah,
together,
oh,
you know,
very good. Very good.
and
Very
put
good.
your picture
Uh-huh.
and your partner's picture
Mhm.
up there together.
Uh-huh.
And that's where it starts from. And then you just fill out the rest of it.
Okay.
But it starts with the two of you.
Yeah, as friends, definitely trusted, deep friends using that
Yes.
hot principle. So paint that picture is important. Hey, it has to be more than just 50-50, 50-50,
Yes.
more than
Yes.
50-50. You
It's
have
got
to push it
100
100,
and
100.
100.
One old guy who I used to talk to about relationships, he said, no, it's got to be 150, 150. I said, man, what ain't 100 enough? And he told me, no, 50 is the sacrificial part. I'll say it again. The 50 on top of the 100% is the sacrificial part. Because in a relationship, you're going to have to do a lot of
Yes,
sacrificial
you are.
things. The old
And
saying,
sometimes with a smile.
exactly. The old saying when it comes to civil rights kind of activities of giving back to community is what's the difference between what a moment or a movement?
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice. So that's the same thing in a relationship. Do you just want to overnight, one night stand, one moment relationship, or do you want a relationship that's going to last for a while? That's going to last
Stand
hopefully
the
to the
stand the sands of time. Stand the test of
test of
time.
time
Yes.
into the end, or that marriage vow that you gave, to death do us part. One thing's for sure, it's going to take sacrifice, and so that's that extra 50% that's
Yes.
on top of that. So that's kind of important for us to know. Okay, so we know that being uncomfortable is going to be hard work, but
Yes.
we can afford. No, I should say wrong. We can afford not to.
Thank you.
We
Thank
can
you.
afford not to.
Yeah, because if it comes into the should I not,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to actually ponder that and
Mm-hmm.
think about it,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to get some coaching or some counseling done.
Exactly. If I woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's
Yeah.
what folks always say.
Yes. And who wants to be
And we
in
say,
that?
what was I say? If I coulda, woulda, shoulda. That's what folks always say. If I coulda, woulda, shoulda. And
Yeah.
then one day it's what? Too late.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
If I woulda, coulda, shoulda,
Mm-hmm.
spent more time with her or
Yeah.
him, or
Mm-hmm.
I should have listened.
Yeah.
I should have, helped out more. I should have whatever, but you didn't,
Mm-mm.
and if you haven't done the coaching and the counseling to fix all that,
To help you
um,
fix it.
then
If that's
you
the direction you want to go.
right, then you might want to start thinking about getting that help for your next relationship.
Exactly. And
So
we'll be glad to help you out. At the bottom, I'll let you know that we do a program, radio program, and it's on Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, called Thriving Relationships, or Taking the Journey Together, on WRUU 107.5 right out of Omaha, Nebraska.
no,
Excuse me,
out of Savannah.
Savannah. We used to
That
do it.
was
Well,
that
that's
was
a
the
show.
other one,
The
like
other show we did
8,
on Omaha,
10, 12 years
exactly.
ago.
I forgot
Yes.
about that. So we've been doing it for 2 years. You
Blast
want to
from
listen
the
to
past.
it?
Woo.
And of course, if you always want to get a hold of us again, TTJT at taking the journey together.com. We can always
Yes.
help you out on going that direction. If you're looking
Mm-hmm.
at going that direction, we can keep you coached and guided that direction, keep you out of that toxicity in your relationships.
Yes.
As we go on, because this is the last time we're going to talk about toxicity, we are giving you learning new relationship tools that can help you out so that you won't continue to let that toxicity be in your relationship. And at the same time, you won't be toxic yourself. Here's some relationship
Mm-hmm.
skills that you need to know and take it with you. As for life can be learned. That's right. In
Yes.
life, it can be learned. we talked about before, I think when we were doing a radio program,
Mm-hmm.
how we're practice at work to do better on the job to get
Yes.
a higher position. We're practice if it comes to sports because we want to, beat the
Go pro.
competition and go pro. We're practice. Well, we'll tell our kids to go practice because we
Yes.
either want them better or get out of the room. One
Practice
of
your
the two.
multiplication. Practice your this.
Exactly.
I remember when my daughter was, she said she wanted to play the saxophone when she was in sixth
Really?
grade. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Saxophone was probably bigger than her.
Yeah, well, she played the alto saxophone, and she
Hmm.
was really upset with me because she wanted to play the baritone,
Hmm.
which is huge.
Really huge.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're 5 foot nothing,
Hmm.
and you want to play a baritone. I'm like, okay, fine, but the thing cost so much, there was no way I could afford it.
Hmm.
But the thing of it is, when she first started playing it, um, I would say, okay, so now's the time, you're home from school, now's the time for you to practice your
Hmm.
instrument. And so we'll be back in a few minutes.
Hmm.
So you go ahead and practice, and I would leave her and her brother. We would leave her and her brother at home
Hmm.
because he was older. And so he would have to kind of, be the older one at the house. And we would leave while she was practicing.
Okay.
So we couldn't hear those notes, you
Oh,
know.
you ain't even right. you, you're not even
But
right.
she got good.
Hmm.
She went to jazz camp and stuff, played solos and all that. So she got pretty good. But it was those first couple of months of practice that we were like, no.
Practicing in your relationship when you have no media examples that are
Hmm.
good.
No books.
You not picking up any books
Right.
because they're out there.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
not, listening to any seminars or
Hmm.
anything like that. You may not even getting any information even in your church. You've got no examples from past relationships in your family at all. So this is something that you have an unction to do on your own
Right.
because you want to do something better. You want it better in your relationship.
Hmm.
You want it the best. Or like young folks said, I'm trying to build. So
Yeah.
that's all right. If you're
Well,
trying to
and that's
build
what
in
you
your
have to
relationship,
do
this
with
is
your
something that you have
relationship.
to build. And
Yes.
if you're building in a relationship, then or if you're building period, it's going to take practice.
Hmm.
It's going to take work.
Yes.
It takes
Trial and error.
exactly. And if you're building a relationship from the standpoint of relating, it's going to take both of you to
Yeah.
do the work, both
Yeah.
of you to work together to build from that end. And the successful and fullness of life comes out of that, whether it's a maybe a mansion or something that you two are working on building on together. And like in this case, I knew a couple that when I used to work at for the city, at a airport, and I used to befriend a guy who was an air traffic controller. He was a young black guy who was an air traffic controller, and he used to show me a book about homes. And when I first looked at the book about homes, I'm like, why do I want to look at a book about homes? What the heck do I care about it for? Even though I was married with kids at the time, my first marriage. And he said, no, 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 no. You don't understand that. This book is about piece and parts of home that you can build yourself. I'm like, what? I ain't never heard of that. There was an actual catalog in a magazine that had like the A-frames, the sides and
Hmm.
moldings and the foundational stuff that you could actually in turn to build a home yourself. I don't know what's called like a model kit home. I didn't know what it was. But I got totally engrossed into something new that was introduced to me in my life from this brother, that you could have homes built. And him and his wife are going through the process of actually building their own home.
Right.
Now, the foundation that they had to get someone to come out and pour the foundation
Hmm.
because that was way over his head of skills. But as for putting the walls up, he and his wife put the walls up according to the
The
blueprint that they
instructions.
had, and yeah, the instructions they had, and all the wood they ordered because it was all part of the kit. It was
Hmm.
ordered in. The A-frame itself was that part where you put the roof on that was brought in. He had to buy, he had to get a contractor come in with the crane to be able to put the A-frame on. A couple of carpenters have to do that. The electrical work, he had some electrician who came into the electrical work because he couldn't do it. But that house that they wanted, according to the model that they both look at, they both together put that house together. Now, they
Wow.
had to be very good friends to do
Oh
something like that.
yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good friends. And they
Because
were. They
that
were.
that would take a lot of trust.
It did. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. Took a lot of trust. And
Mm-hmm.
what gets me about that is that the man, you won't believe this. Back in that time, it was in the late 90s, 95s. I guess I'm telling how young I am. But anyway, when I was doing it, married the first time, 20 some years old, I remember that houses, a 4 bedroom house that was approximately 17 to 20,000 or 17 to 2,000 square feet, maybe 22 square feet. They were going somewhere in some neighborhoods between 65 at the lowest to 125 and more. All depends
Mm-hmm.
upon the style of the home.
Right.
He was getting the parts and pieces with no labor, no less than $15,000, if that.
Wow.
What I found out was the biggest cost in the houses that we're in right now is, guess what? It's
What?
the labor.
Yeah.
The labor is the biggest
That's the
cost.
biggest cost in
It
everything.
still is
Yeah.
today. It's the
Yeah.
labor, outside of
Yeah.
the fact they do have unbelievable, exorbitant, exploded
Yeah.
prices on houses right now. And they said the bubble's going to break pretty soon. But anyway, it was the labor. So
Mm-hmm.
they put the labor in their hand, which was something they practiced in their own relationship of being friends
Right.
and working together. And they
Right.
put that house together. And they did it
And that was the labor
within a
of the
year.
relationship.
Exactly. Labor of love. How about that?
Yes,
A labor
yes.
of love.
People do not want to put that kind of, they'll pay somebody else for labor on
Hmm.
all things, like you were saying, the
Hmm.
house, but they won't put the labor in themselves, even on their
Can
relationship.
you imagine how much they grew to know each other?
Yes,
The many nights late at night that when they were putting the foundation, putting the walls up, where
yes.
they had to see each other and had to
Mm-hmm.
coordinate with one another, and they had to learn new things at the same
Right.
time. They had to get very, very close
Oh,
as friends to be able to
absolutely.
do stuff. And then
Absolutely.
when the house was built, they could say, "This is ours."
And think
That
about,
labor of love they put into it had to be
right.
real serious.
And think about the memories that they
Oh
built
yeah,
from that.
yeah.
And what it brought back to me, as you were
Mhm.
saying, that was that project that we did, in that
Oh yeah.
remodeling project that we did,
Okay. Yeah.
which was, it was amazing. A
Hmm.
21-day remodel.
Yeah,
You
you kept
know.
track of that. It was. We did a heck of a job in those 21 days on
Yes.
our particular RV, and we got to learn each other more.
Hmm.
No doubt
And
about
what
it.
we could do
It
and what we couldn't do, and
Sometimes we got mad at each other. Sometimes I cursed at you. Sometimes you in turn gave me the roly roly eyes back at me.
it's like
You wouldn't do
it's
certain
like
things. That's all part of the
talk to the
relationship.
hand and shut up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when we were doing. I mean, you got off of work, okay, and
Yes.
I do that nonprofit thing in the morning, so we'd be there sometimes all
Oh
night
yeah. There were
working
many
on that.
times that we would leave at 12
Hmm.
or 1 o'clock and go back to the house, and at 4:30 the clock was going off and I had to get up and go to work.
Hmm.
And then there were other times that, especially on the weekend, we would just stay. We would get up, you know, Saturday morning,
Hmm.
and go to breakfast and go back and work all day, and you know Sunday morning do the same thing, because it was something that we needed to do, wanted to do, had planned out.
Hmm.
And we were not only, as you said, putting labor into the project,
Hmm.
but we were also putting labor into building our
A relationship.
relationship, and that is priceless.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. If you want a good relationship, if you want a deep relationship, if you want a relationship that has some soul, some real structure to it, some real glue to it, some real foundation to it, that is thriving, that is fulfilling, has that balance, or has that spiritual sprinkle and what I call elements in it, like hot,
Hmm.
then it's going to take work. It's going to take work,
Yes.
and that's that. But the work is well worth it in
Hmm.
the long run. It really is well worth it. The memories that you both have, and how can I say it? The closeness that you both in turn feel and connect that nobody else has, but you two have, makes it more of that. This is a us thing, and you
Yes,
cherish it and you guard that us thing.
definitely.
And I would tell you, if you don't understand that as it for you to be on this earth, and you want to leave some kind of mark on this earth where at least you're known by somebody. You don't want a grave where someone said, I don't know who he was anyway.
Yes.
What a way to be able to do that with someone else that you can share in your life. I'm not talking about just with your kids, but what a way that you could do that and share that spots,
Mhm.
that time with someone else in your life. And what better is that? Is about that.
Exactly. Exactly. You
Oh,
know, and you're not living until you
alone.
do that.
Exactly.
You know, because you cherish it so much more when you're sharing it with somebody that
Exactly.
you absolutely love.
Leave if you need be. Yep, we saw all that good stuff. We're almost coming to the end too. But sometimes you may have to leave. I know they're like, why did they say all that? And that is now they're talking about leave. But
Because
sometimes go ahead.
because sometimes that's what you have to do,
Mm-hmm.
but if it's a seasonal thing,
Mm-hmm.
it may not be a forever leave. It
Yeah.
may be a, I'm gonna leave for about an hour and let me or
Couple
you
of
or
days.
both of us get a different perspective on
Exactly.
things, or yeah, or a couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
the I
Sometimes it might be a couple of months. Maybe
hmm
they may have to go up to family and deal with family
yeah,
because of
yeah.
that particular portion that needs to be done. And you have
hmm
to trust them up there. And you still can build that relationship through that trust because that
yes,
love goes beyond just physical boundaries. It can, and go through the atmosphere and energy, and you can
hmm
be any place on Earth or another particular planet. And
yes.
that love can still be there, still
And
exist.
that communication
Mm-hmm.
is the key in that time, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes things do happen where you have to separate from each other for a
Mm-hmm.
while, um, but that doesn't mean, especially with all of today's technology,
Mm-hmm.
that you can't keep each other apprised of what's going on in your life at that particular
Oh,
time.
you mean like those who were on the space lab? Yeah,
Exactly.
they were keeping track, and they were what, so many thousands of feet in the air, going in orbit around the Earth, that they were
Thousands
going
of feet.
feet. Okay,
Try
miles,
miles.
miles. And okay, I think it's a little bit less than that, but that's all right. They still were communicating with one another,
Yes.
and it wasn't even over Zoom. And kids were getting to talk with them, families going to talk with them, so they
hmm
keep that connection.
Yes.
So it is no doubt about it, that possibility is very, very real.
Right.
But there is a time where it's so toxic, and individuals in that relationship is toxic all the time. There is no season. They just move that way. They want to be that way.
hmm
You have no way to control and stop them whatsoever. When that happens and it's amplified, the thrill is gone.
And the
It's time.
relationship, as they say, is going to hell in a handbasket.
Basket. It's time to move
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
It's time to move on. You know your relationship, it ain't working because you're worth healthy relationships.
Yeah.
Again, that's when you know you're worth a
Yeah.
healthy
Yeah.
relationship.
Exactly.
And this other person is probably thinking in their mind, I'm worthless, so I'm gonna make you feel worthless.
Exactly.
And I remember this one time someone told me that there's some people who are so toxic in the relationship, so toxic. They have kamikaze kind of emotions and energy. I said, what the heck is that? They will burn the whole house or boat down with them in it, and you and everybody right along with it.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
insane.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
um, before you get to that point, if you realize you're just hanging around,
Mm-hmm.
hoping they'll change, one day they'll
What?
change.
Hey, think about this. We just found out in Hinesville because we're spending some time out there.
hmm
We looked in the paper. There was a young man who was in the army, and he in turn it was a cook. I think it is. I forgot what
hmm
you call the word. Starts with a C.
Chef.
Chef. It's something else. I can't remember exactly.
hmm
He ran after his wife into a store in Hinesville, and with a gun, and he ran into the store, and everybody got scared. And his wife ran back into some kind of storage area. I forgot what it was in the store, and he ran in there too, and everybody ducked. And when they went back into that particular office in this storage area in Hinesville, all they heard was shots. And later on, the police came in not too long after that and found them both dead.
Yeah.
He shot her and then he shot himself.
Yeah.
That was just in Hinesville not too long ago.
Yeah.
Talk about some
Less than a month
toxicity.
ago.
Exactly. And they said they saw the guy before that in the store. He was nice, talking well, yada, yada, yada. But yet you never know how
Right.
toxic those relationships are. If those signs are there and they're that bad, we don't want you dead.
Right.
We don't want that person dead. You
And you
especially
should
don't want
not
that
have, and you
outcome.
don't have to deal with that. That's not a thriving relationship.
No.
that's not even a surviving
No,
relationship.
no.
If you get to that point where you're just hanging around hoping someday they'll change, it's
Mhm.
time to kill the fantasy and move on.
Yeah, look at their emotions, not just the
Hmm.
words. Look at their emotions, how they relate to
Yeah,
emotions, meaning nonverbal words. And if it feels
right.
mean and they act to you in a mean way all the time, and you feel that kind of fear like that all the
Or
time,
or they're
it's time to
or
go.
they're ignoring you
Yes,
all the
yes.
time.
That toxic,
Yeah,
of
I mean,
course,
it's
I'm
not
not
that I
talking to you.
need my time to wind down.
Mhm.
It is
I don't know you. I ain't really into you
exactly,
whatsoever at all.
exactly.
Okay, so we're trying to co-create healthy relationships. We're ending the toxicity. This is the last one, folks, about toxicity. So hopefully you'll learn from it. Hopefully we gave you something, put it in the deep freezer, as our old pastors say, and bring it out again. But we are saying have healthy relationships, have whole relationships. Don't run to the hills and swear off relationships forever after it's dark. Take the risk. People get hurt. It does happen. Just make sure, if you said, it doesn't get hurt that much,
Right.
but do the right darn thing and have a good relationship, mostly about giving to the
Hmm.
planet. That's what it's about,
Yes,
giving back to the
yes,
planet.
yes.
And we need each other, right?
Absolutely. And just remember, relationships are messy,
Exactly.
but you must have them in order to have a healthy whole life.
Exactly. And don't give up on people or yourself, folks. Please don't do it. Okay. Our engineer, this is it. It's done. Move on till next time. It's yours.
like this.